What's up, YouTube? KS Gun Guy here. Thanks for joining me today, as always. So I've got an extraordinarily exciting firearm to bring you guys, the CZ Shadow 2. Now I know you're probably saying, KS, we're getting tired of the CZs. That's all you've been featuring lately, and I will admit, I kind of have. Don't worry, I'll get back into other manufacturers because I love all guns. But CZ has become a little bit of a drug, I must admit. They make some incredible firearms, and all budgets, all different makes and models and that sort of thing, and it's just been a lot of fun to explore these firearms. Now, my good buddy, Sandpaper Pistol Grips, sent me his personal competition firearm to review for you guys today, and what an incredible gesture. I really appreciate that. And guys, if you're in the market to enhance your grips on your polymer guns or your steel frame guns, whatever they happen to be, I highly recommend you check out Sandpaper Pistol Grips. I'm going to leave some links down below for you to check out his products so you can see what all he's got for what types of firearms and that sort of thing. So definitely give him some love and enhance those pistol grips for you. Now on to the Shadow 2. Let's go ahead and knock a couple of specs out of the way of this here real quick to give you an idea of the size and the gravitational pull of this particular firearm. The overall length is 8.53 inches. The height is 6.18 inches. The barrel length is 4.72 inches. Now, the overall width out of the box is 1.34 inches. Now, I do have an extended safety on there. I'll talk more about that a little bit later. So that does make it a little bit wider, but out of the box, 1.34 inches is actually pretty good. From a weight standpoint, here comes that gravitational pull, 46.91 ounces. Guys, this is a tank. Now, there's some great advantages to that. We'll get to that very soon. From a magazine standpoint, they are 18-round magazines. You get 3 out of the box. Now, this particular magazine says 40 caliber on it. On the other side, it's 9mm, so it's doing a little bit of a magic trick. But again, out of the box, 3 magazines, 18 rounds, not a bad deal. From a slide finish standpoint, this is going to be a nitride finish, and the gun, of course, is all steel, making up that almost 47 ounces. Now, this is a double action, single action firearm, and of course, it is unloaded as always. And of course, CZ just, I mean, that's kind of the world they live in. A lot of their offerings are in double action, single action, and they do a really good job with it. I don't want to say they've perfected it. I don't think there's such a thing. However, they get pretty darn close. Let's take a look at the features of this incredible firearm here. So let's start first with the grip, and as we go to the very bottom of it, you're not going to be able to see it incredibly well, even though we've got a lot of light in here. But the magwell is beveled just a little bit to make that magazine insertion easier, of course. But as we move up the grip, one of the coolest things about this gun are the actual grip panels themselves, these aluminum grip panels that say Shadow 2. First, I think these are really good looking. And I've also found, even though that some people say these are a little bit slick, and I do have kind of sweaty hands, they actually provide a pretty good purchase. I didn't feel like the gun was moving around at all while shooting. Now, again, it's 47 ounces, so it's tough for this gun to go entirely too far, but I think there's enough traction on these grips, and they look good to really keep them on the gun without any sort of a problem. Now, on the backstrap, we've got some really nice checkering. I'll bring that up for you. CZ did a really good job of milling that out. It's very clean. It's just aggressive enough to where it doesn't beat up the hand, but it definitely provides a good bite. Same thing with your front strap as well. So from a grip aggressiveness standpoint, I would say this is somewhere between medium and aggressive. So there is definitely some bite to be able to make sure that this gun does not go anywhere. From a magazine release standpoint, another thing you'll notice that this magazine release is actually adjustable, so you can make it more or less extended if you want. I'm sure there are probably some different parts, different pieces you can put in there to kind of customize it the way you want. This is the magazine release out of the box, to my knowledge, and frankly, I think it's fantastic. It stays out of the way. This is my natural grip on the gun, so it's out of the way. I'm not worried about bumping it or anything like that. Even with my support hand, there's definitely enough room there. However, it's big enough to be able to really get that magazine out very quickly and get back to shooting. So CZ did a really good job. They were very thoughtful about that magazine release. Now, from a safety standpoint, it is ambidextrous out of the box. Now, out of the box, you actually get two flat or more or less flat safeties on here. So you would actually carry this gun cocked and locked, probably in a competition setting. That's really what this gun is designed for. However, you can run with, and it does come with, an extended safety. So you can mod this gun out of the box pretty quickly to suit your needs. And that safety does provide a really nice little shelf for you there. And it's positive, no doubt about that. So again, CZ did a great job with that. Now these slide lock, slide release, and I want to say this is more of a lock. I'll get to that in just a moment. But it is not ambidextrous out of the box, but it also does serve as your disassembly lever. So it disassembles very similar to most other CZs out there. And actually, it's kind of reminiscent a little bit to a 1911 as well, because you're going to be pushing through here after you line up a couple of little lines here on the back of the slide. You'll see both of those lines. You just line them up like so, and then you would push through your safety lever, or your lever rather, takedown lever, and you're good to go. Now I say it is more a slide lock than a slide release, partially because of this safety right here. It kind of gets in the way of being able to get to that release, and that release is actually out there a fair ways. I've actually made that comment in the PO7 as well. It's just a little bit further than I would like. So for me, it was more practical while shooting to use an overhand method. So worked quite well, wasn't a big deal, but it was something that I definitely noticed. Now, I would not sacrifice this safety for the sake of the release. That's just my opinion. Now, it does have an accessory rail for lights, lasers, grenade launchers. Now, I imagine you're probably not going to be hanging too many things off this gun because, again, it's more geared towards competition, but it's nice that the option is there just in case. And you'll notice there's quite a bit of meat here along the dust cover. I mean, that really is where a lot of that weight comes in. And I'll tell you what, as far as flat shooting goes, the Shadow 2 is absolutely flat shooting, and a lot of that is attributed to its ergonomics as well as its weight. Now, as we move back up the frame here, the grip frame rather, we do have a pretty nice beaver tail right here. So it definitely makes sure that you get as high up on the gun as you possibly can without having that slide interfere with you whatsoever. So it really keeps that bore as low as possible and makes for really comfortable ergonomics. I mean, they've done a great job with this cut here, and there's a nice undercut under the trigger guard as well. So it just really feels good in the hand. I mean, you have to do some curls before you shoot it because it's so heavy, but once you start shooting, I mean, it just is an absolute delight. It sort of felt like I was shooting a 22. More on that in just a little bit, and more on that on the trigger in just a moment as well. Now, as we move up the slide, you'll notice there are front and back serrations as you would expect, and these serrations actually are really positive. I mean, you can definitely get a hold of these things. There's a lot of bite in there, and you can make that slide work. Now, one thing about this, you'll notice that there is a lot of millwork up here, and it's milled on both sides, of course, so it makes it a little bit more triangular. They tried to reduce some of the weight on the slide to make sure that there's less mass going back and forward. So again, keeping that muzzle down as much as possible. And another unique thing about CZs, as a lot of us know, is the rails are on the inside. You'll notice these shiny rails right here. They sit inside the frame rather than outside the frame, and that helps keep that slide, again, as low as possible to get that bore axis as low, if that's something of interest to you. Now, from a sight standpoint, these are the sights out of the box. It is a front fiber optic, and it's green on this particular one, as you'll notice. And on the back sight, they are serrated. It's all blacked out, and it is adjustable for your elevation. Now, from a sight perspective, I'm usually a little bit timid about green fiber optic. I actually prefer red. However, for whatever reason, this thing really, it was fantastic at the range. I mean, I could pick it up very easily, especially with the back sights all blacked out, and it worked out really well. So if I was to pick up one of these, I would definitely go with the green fiber optic myself. And then lastly, there are some serrations on top to reduce glare just a little bit. So again, I think overall, from a fit and finish standpoint, from a manufacturing standpoint, I think CZ has done a really good job. They put together a gun that's tightly fit, but not so tight it can't run. I mean, it's glass. I mean, when you run that slide, it's absolute glass. And the gun feels good. I mean, it just really is a solid gun, albeit a big gun for sure. So when we come back, we're going to take a look at that trigger, and of course, we'll give a final summary at the end. So be sure to stay tuned. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that footage at the range. So from a shooting perspective, the Shadow 2 is an absolute delight to shoot. The combination of ergonomics and weight and trigger, which we'll get to in just a moment, make this gun just extraordinary. It stays planted on target and it's easy to shoot. It makes even an average shooter like me look better than I probably should. You guys know I'm not a very accurate shooter. I don't go for the bullseye sort of thing. I like good quality defensive rounds, center mass, downrange, and that's kind of my criteria. But this is a whole different ball game right here. And if I was still competing like I did years ago, this would be the dream gun right here because it's just so well put together. Now it's pretty hefty, no doubt about it, but if you can deal with that, it's an extraordinary firearm. So let's go ahead and take a look at the trigger and see how this does. Of course, I've got some dummy rounds in here. I don't like to drop the hammer on guns, especially when they aren't mine. It's just how I was raised. So from a trigger perspective, now from a double action standpoint, this comes in just over 8 pounds, which is pretty good. Now Sandpaper Pistol Grips has put some aftermarket springs in. He's done just a little bit of work to dial it into his needs. And I'll tell you, the work that's been done is absolutely fantastic. This trigger just really glides. I mean, even though it's just over 8 pounds, so it's still got some heft to it, it really just glides right through. So here's your single action, and it just goes right through. I mean, it's almost effortless. Yeah, you got a little bit of weight there. I mean, you can definitely feel a little bit of resistance, but it's just not bad at all. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that reset. And there's your reset. It's nice, it's tactile, it's audible. I mean, it's everything you want in a reset if that's something that's important to you. So we'll take a look at that double action one more time and see how this does again. So we get some resistance right at the very beginning, and then it just glides right through. You're done, and again, your reset, and you're back out to the start. So again, from a double action standpoint, I mean, this really is absolutely fantastic. Now, from a single action standpoint, this comes in right around 3 pounds. So not quite a hair trigger, but not far from it. And again, from a competition standpoint, somewhere around the 2.5 to maybe 3.5 or 4 pounds is really fantastic. So at 3 pounds, this just feels great. Now, there is a little bit of uptake on the single action just right there, and we get to a nice wall, and then without hardly any effort, the hammer drops. And we will get that round out of there. I'm tossing those right on me. And we've got our reset right there, and we're back out to the start. The reset's not terribly audible, but you can definitely feel it. And at the end of the day, that's really all that matters for resets. So once again, that single action, a little bit of uptake, There's your pull, and then your reset, and you're back out to the start. And it's just fantastic. I mean, it absolutely is. So again, from an overall standpoint, I mean, the fit and finish and the ergonomics and the trigger just makes the combination of this so good. And some of you guys know that this gun has definitely been on my wish list for a while. My good buddy Big Johnson brought his to Kansas City kind of mid-year 2017, and I had the opportunity to shoot it for just a little while, and I was overwhelmingly impressed. So I knew at some point I would have to come back to this gun and revisit it, and I still want one for my own. But Sandpaper, once again, thanks for sharing this with me. So guys, again, from an overall standpoint, the CZ Shadow 2 is an extraordinary firearm. Now, it's a little bit pricey. You can find them somewhere in the $1,150 to $1,300 depending on where you look. Perhaps you can get it a little bit lower if you search around, but it's not a terribly cheap gun. However, for that you get fine fit and finish. I mean, it really is very good. The looks are fantastic. I mean, I think it's an absolutely beautiful firearm. You get 3 magazines, of course. You get great sights, a couple of different options for safeties, and it just is an exquisite firearm. And if you don't mind 47 ounces shooting, especially at the range or competition, I think you would be doing yourself a favor to at least give something like this a try and see if it is for you, because it really is just a joy and a pleasure to shoot. So Sandpaper Pistol Grips, thank you so much again for the opportunity. What a rare pleasure. And guys, check one of these out. I highly recommend it. So I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about this. Be sure to leave a comment down below and let me know if you've got some experience with the Shadow or Shadow 2, any of the other CZs, or any other firearms for that matter. I'm always looking forward to those comments and your thoughts. You guys are always great about that. Thanks again so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.